So how are you? Where are you coming from?
I belong to Jen.
Jen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now tell me, what is this 5G base? You heard about 5G?
Yes, ma'am.
What spectrum is this 5G?
Ma'am, fifth generation is the new bandwidth,
Okay.
which is being used for the transfer the usage of internet. It has less latency as compared to what we have earlier been using, and it has more capability to accommodate many devices.
Oh, so that's why they are saying we should have 5G base, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now tell me about semiconductors. Have you heard?
Yes, ma'am.
What are they?
Ma'am, semiconductor is a element which has properties of both metal as well as non-metal. It has valency of 4, and it is used for variety of purposes, especially in the field of electronics and communication engineering.
So how did you like your engineering? Did you do engineering?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you work?
No, ma'am. Right after graduation, I decided to prepare for civil.
So tell me, what is May Day? M-A-Y, May? May, and what is May Day? Have you heard about May Day? Okay, so tell me about the ET, you know Economic Times, ET, Economic Times, they have given an award, Business Woman of the Year. Did you? Award देते हैं for the best business person. आपने सुना?
Sorry, ma'am.
Sir, please.
Sure. Mr. Aishvarya.
Yes.
And having done electrical engineering, you have opted for geography as your optional
Yes,
field.
sir.
Electrical engineering is available as optional field.
Yes, sir.
What were all the information available to you that you didn't choose electrical engineering as an option?
So electrical engineering is a good subject, and I could have opted for the same. The option to take geography was purely strategic due to its considerable overlap with the GS paper.
No, I'm not asking about geography.
Yes, sir.
Why you chose geography? Why you did not choose electrical engineering?
I said it's not that I didn't like electrical engineering or I could not have prepared, but when I started studying for civil services, the prospect of geography was comparatively better than electrical engineering. That's why I opted for the same.
Okay. Relatively you found geography better than electrical engineering.
For preparation purposes, yes.
Of course, obviously we are looking at civil services exam only. I will not tell you. Okay. As of now, we are transferring electrical energy from one location to another by high voltage AC.
Yes.
We are raising the voltage to some kilovolts.
Yes, sir.
And then transferring from one location to another.
Yes, sir.
And there are problems with that, there are losses there.
Yes, sir.
My suggestion to you is that can we do this way, that let us transfer the electrical energy instead of AC, firstly DC, secondly instead of high voltage, we transfer on low voltage. Low voltage DC transmission from one location to another, so that will, electrical losses will be, I feel it will be less.
Yes, sir.
What are, just examine this thing as a offer and then tell me. You take your time and tell me pros and cons.
Yes, sir. It is indeed true that transmission of AC at high voltage does have some losses. For example, corona losses, for instance. And this problem can be rectified through DC. But the high voltage DC has itself the problem of generation of DC at high voltages. The production of the stepping up of voltage in AC is comparatively easier.
You listen to the question?
Yes.
I told that let us transfer the energy through low voltage DC from point 1 to 2. Use low voltage DC. I mean practically 400 volt or something, whatever is the generating voltage.
Sorry, sir, I am not aware about low voltage DC
No,
transmission.
it's not a question of being aware. Examining in your mind, check up what are the pros and cons. Had it been in the book, I would not have given it to you. You are much more qualified. Just examine it, think about it. And let me know. What are the negative points of DC transmission at low voltage?
Sorry, sir, I am not
Okay.
able to recall that.
People only 2-3 days back, there was a discussion about Armed Forces Special Powers Act not being palatable to people in Northeast, and it was said that they will try to reduce the area to which this act is applicable.
Yes.
I want to know from you that which are the particular provisions of Armed Forces Act which people are not liking.
So first provision is latent immunity to search the households without any warrant.
Say again.
Sir, absolute provision to search the household of the people without any warrant. This has led to many allegedly human rights violations. So people are having apprehensions regarding this provision.
As of now, how many states are in how many states it is being enforced?
Sir, it is enforced in Nagaland. It is enforced in some parts of Arunachal Pradesh. It is enforced in.
I wanted to know the just number 1, 2, 3, 4. How many states?
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Aishwarya, it is so interesting to interact with you. We are now undergoing a heat wave.
Yes.
Atmospheric temperature is touching almost 50 degrees, and predictions are that it might go up to 53 degrees also in the next few days. So tell me the causes of this sudden increase, because it is an all-time high, the like of which has not been seen. The increase in the temperature now. What are the causes and the consequences also?
So first and the foremost cause is climate change. Like recent reports of ICC has also pointed out that the present temperature is now 1.09 degrees centigrade higher than the pre-industrial level. So the first and the foremost reason is this. Second is urban heat island effect also. In case of urban areas, there is a phenomenon called urban heat island, which raises the temperature of the urban areas from about 4 to 6 degrees centigrade from the surrounding areas. This is one of the due to.
But has this aspect of urban heating changed in the last 3 years? I think that the urban contribution to global warming continues to be the same, or it has changed in the last 3 years?
So it is gradually increasing day by day because the area under the concrete is increasing, which has indeed led to less albedo, less reflection of heat. This has led to increase in the temperature in the urban areas due to more absorption of heat and such incidences of heat waves, especially in the urban areas. So as far as consequences are concerned, first is direct effect to the health, not only to the humans but also to the animals as well as the biodiversity around us. And sir, other impact is there is, as far as an electrical engineer, what I have been witnessing, that there is a sudden surge in the demand due to considerable heat, especially in the months of March and April. For example, last Tuesday also the peak demand was about 200 gigawatts, which is one of the highest recorded in the history. This is one of the consequences as well.
These are very minor consequences. The major consequences, if you discussing it so lucidly, what about the consequence of glacier melting,
Yes, sir.
sea level, and the consequent impact?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is indeed true that the glaciers are melting, and it was also highlighted by Hindu Kush Himalayan report that was released last year. And there has also been instances of.
You can sit back and relax. You are amongst friends. Don't be tense. Sit back like I am sitting and relax and then talk.
Yes, sir. Indeed, there is sea level rise as well. And this phenomena is much rapid in the Indian Ocean as well. And one more consequence is the increase in the frequency of natural disasters such as cyclones. We have been witnessing an increase in the frequency as well as intensity of the tropical cyclones in the Arabian Sea as well, which was earlier not the phenomena. These are some of the.
Mr. Aishwarya, I would like to understand, does the increase in temperature also have an impact on the incidence of crime? Any studies on that? Any impact of the heat wave on crime?
Sir, I am not aware about any particular studies, but if you allow me, I can make a logical guess here.
Go ahead.
Sir, many geographers, as I have taken geography, many geographers has pointed out this phenomena that increase in the heat is directly proportional to the criminal instinct of a person. Plus,
Are you sure of what you are saying? Yes, has to be. Yes, that has to be on the basis of logic and studies. not a shot in the dark. If it is a shot in the dark, we will stop at that.
Yes.
If it is on the basis of some studies, please go ahead, continue.
Sorry, sir, it is not based on some particular studies.
It is based on common sense.
I am getting some.
So never mind. We go to something else, very interesting. Where you man would ask you about 5G.
Yes.
There's the plus sign which you mentioned, and there's a minus sign also. Can you shed some light on the minus side of 5G technology?
Yes, sir. It will increase the expenditure in terms of the new devices that are.
Naturally, any technology comes at a cost.
Yes, sir.
But you mentioned the word biodiversity.
Yes, sir.
Are there any studies to show that the 5G technology also impacts the biodiversity in any manner? Human health in any manner?
Sorry, sir, I am not aware, but I am aware of one instance, if you allow me.
Mm-hmm.
That last year the BirdLife International has given out a report in which they had mentioned something about this, that introduction of 5G won't affect the biodiversity of bird life to a considerable extent.
Great observation. Do you think that every such study that promotes any technology can be trusted without any questions asked? Or do you think there are sponsored studies to promote or to dissect any technology? There's so much of money and finances involved. I would question any study that promotes any technology or questions any study. There are sponsored researches and there are sponsored studies. How would you react to this?
Yes, sir, indeed it is true that there are some vested interests of corporates and other bodies which has led to sponsored studies. I think, sir, if such studies are conducted by independent and recognized organizations which have much higher accountability to the public.
Can you name two such so-called established and reputed institutions or study centers, research institutes?
Sir,
which would you think are the topmost two in the world whom you trust and rely on?
Sir, I would say one is IPCC in terms of climate change reports.
Never mind. What's it? Sir.
Thank you, sir. Well, Aishwarya, you mentioned about the IPCC report.
Yes.
It is the IPCC report. It also had one recommendation that we should reduce the GHG emission by 40% by 2030.
Yes.
So, do you think that India is able to meet that stipulation, that recommendation?
Sir,
GHG
yes, sir.
emission has to be reduced by about 40% by 2030.
Sir, India has made many commitments for achieving the target. For example, in the recent summit of COP26, India has highlighted many commitments to increase the renewable power energy generation by 500 gigawatt by 2030 and achieve the net carbon neutrality by 2070. In terms of whether it is on the target, I am not aware of any particular data which justifies the same. But India is aggressively promoting many initiatives, electric vehicles as well, and the National Action Plan for Climate Change, which has 8 components, to aggressively pursue this target.
So, in Madhya Pradesh, we have the largest number of tribals.
Yes, sir.
Also, huge tracts of land are under forest.
Yes, sir.
So, how do you see this relationship, whether tribals are contributing to the eco-conservation? The Project Tiger, there are 6 sites of Project Tiger there, and they are doing very well in MP. So, how do you see this relationship? How tribal population is helping? Or do you see any conflict?
So there has been instances where it has established that tribal people are more close to the forest and not only they utilize the resources but also help in conserving the forest as well, because they are not only the source of livelihood but also the part of their culture as well. So yes, sir, I think that tribal has a much deeper connection with the forest, and you have rightly pointed out that Madhya Pradesh does has the largest number, 21% of the population in Madhya Pradesh is tribal, and it has the largest forest cover as well. This can be one relation.
So tell me how a district magistrate, you would make sure that tribal forest relationship is further improved upon, it is made further compatible and synergistic. What action will you take with regard to tribals?
May I take a minute?
Yeah, please.
ensure that any project that is being implemented is in provisions with the law, such as there are laws that Forest Right Act 2006, and the approval of the Gram Sabha is being taken while doing any project on the tribal land or related to forest. Second, for promotion, I can think that some of the cultural festivals that are related to tribals can be promoted. For example, now under a Bharat Shresth Bharat program, many states are connecting with each other to exchange their ideas related to cultural festivals. Then such tribal festivals which are in link to the forest can be promoted not only through government scheme channels but also through social media and other platforms as well.
Now, the Prime Minister is leaving for 3 days, 3 countries trip to Europe. Are you aware which countries would he be visiting? Yeah, tomorrow he is leaving.
So it's
No issue. Now my last question, you have mentioned in your hobbies you play chess.
yes, sir.
So do you see any similarity in the strategy of playing chess and running district administration?
Yes, sir. Indeed, I see two possibilities.
Please tell me.
First is your one action can have multiple consequences,
Mhm.
and it is your duty that you should study the various number of consequences and be prepared for the same. Like in game of chess, we play one move and anticipate the moves of other, and we prepare ourselves for our next move well in advance. So if such things are applied in the administration, then we can have a better foresight in case of further consequences. Second, sir, in chess there is a phenomenon called stalemate in the end, in which even if a player is winning, then he has to make sure that he does not end up in a stalemate which can end up in a draw. So in case of administration also, until and unless a target is not completely achieved, we should not lower our guard and should execute it properly.
Good. Thank you.
So Aishwarya, you're from Ujjain.
Yes, sir.
Now tell me, religious tourism circuit. If I ask you to prepare a religious tourism circuit between UP, where Bareilly or your state or somewhere,
Sir, I'm
now
presently.
you are residing in Bareilly, Uttarakhand where you are studying, and you identify certain destinations each in which you can connect them on a religious tourism circuit.
Sir,
Yes,
yes, sir. Sir, if I start by Ujjain, I would first go to Mahakaleshwar and Omkareshwar, which are very close to each other, and they are the two Jyotirlings. Then I think we can move to Khajuraho, where Khajuraho group of temples is also there. From there we can go to Kashi Vishwanath in UP, and thereafter we can move to west, and in Uttarakhand we can go to Kedarnath and Badrinath, and in this way a circle can be completed.
Circuit. It's not called a circuit.
Yes, sir.
So Aishwarya, tell me, you are an electrical engineer.
Yes, sir.
So I am making a statement. The present power crisis is an act of mismanagement and misadministration at the level of governments and the power companies.
So I would say that this statement is partially true. Other being there has been some unprecedented crisis at international level, like Russia-Ukraine crisis, which has led to increase in the price of the imported coal by 35%, due to which coastal areas has now started to cut the imports, which has increased the demand in the domestic areas, and the transportation cost has also increased to transport it to the coastal areas. So I don't think that it is completely government's fault, but yes, sir, there is a demand-supply mismanagement to some extent which could have been managed better. But I think the present power crisis is a mix of both.
Now, the Foreign Secretary of India has made a statement that the dynamics of China and Russia are changing vis-a-vis India. Now, we are also having a BRICS summit very soon. Are you aware of it?
Yes.
Now, with Russia and China getting together on many issues, how much India should be reliable on Russia for its defense needs? in times to come?
So the friendship between India and Russia as far as defense technology and other is concerned has stood the test of time, and Russia has been a reliable partner till now, and India has also reciprocated the same. In the present dynamics also, India has not completely stood against Russia, rather it has condemned the war and the violence, but it has also protected its national interest. I think India should take decision based on its national interest on a merit basis in a different scenario, and should balance its need and not completely dependent on a particular country for its need. And the most prominent solution for this is strengthening the indigenized defense sector.
Now, the RBI governor has said that India will take many more years to be at the same economic level as it was in pre-COVID. Now, what do you think is the current economic scenario based on macro indicators as of now? Can you just very briefly tell?
Sir, after COVID, the growth has been slumped and India has entered into technical recession, but now it has started to recover. Like economic survey also pointed out that the further growth would be around 8 to 9%. However, issues are related to fiscal deficit and debt.
I would like to know, when I said as of now, the latest position is not COVID, post-COVID. The latest is the war. The Ukraine war has put the economy of India on the downside again. So you are going back to the COVID times. I am referring to the Ukraine war fallout, which is more recent.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Has it not upsetted the entire economic situation of the country?
Yes, sir. It
I
has.
want to know that.
It has affected. First of all, most hit is our energy sector, because we supply the natural gas from Russia, and we also have.
I want indicators. Economic. GDP, inflation.
Sir, I am not exactly aware about
You are not aware.
the numbers, data to justify this.
Tell me how much downslide, improving, something is improving also. Just in the trend, if you are aware.
Yes, sir. The food inflation is increasing, which has led. We have seen that there has been rise in many vegetables.
So, how do you rate yourself? What do you think you did? Well, bad, average, plus?
I could have done better. Many places I could have framed my statements better, and I could have prioritized my statements better. And there are some scope for improvement in some areas, especially.
I think you are a very good candidate. You can express, you know the language, and you can analyze, but I felt perhaps that in general knowledge sphere you were, जैसे कल मेडे है, मेडे ancient, it's not something new. They celebrate May-Day, they honor the wage and all that, the labor of whoever. So you should know, because just tomorrow,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's just an example. And sir will add, everyone will say something.
Sure. You see, occasionally you are too fast. Occasionally. All of a sudden you find that you have answered. That time the speed becomes too much. So control yourself on that occasion. And the second, a general advice that before you start speaking, configure the entire answer in your mind. That will give you a better way to express yourself. It will be more forceful, more impressive reply. Same thing, but it will be more impressive if it is configured well in your mind. Okay, this is the thing. Then questions have to be listened very carefully and answered must confine to the questions. No preface is required. There is no time for preface. No lecture is intended. So confine yourself. For example, we gave the questions to you. 2-3 questions were there. But I find that what you knew you wanted to tell, but what question was, that was not exactly. So do that way. For example, look at this first question itself about DC transmission. It doesn't require a very big what you call technical knowledge, that if my target is to transfer energy and if I am using very low voltage DC, then the total amount of energy which will be transferred will be very low. Isn't it? Why we go high voltage DC or the high voltage AC? Because we want to transfer large amount of energy. The moment I reduce it to 400 volts, the total amount of energy will be too less. Common sense. That's why high voltage AC is there, and there is a new development about the high voltage DC. Okay? So here the question was just to see whether you are able to apply yourself or not. It is not a question of electrical engineering. Whether are you ready to apply yourself? If a decision making situation is given to you, are you able to apply yourself, or you will run away from applying? Okay.
Sir, thank you. Very good personality, very mature, good answers, but a clean shave is absolutely imperative. Don't wear this stubble on the day of the interview. Don't guess too much. Here you have the luxury of guessing or taking chances. There you will not have this luxury. And go into deep details where you found that you're faltering once or twice. You are very well informed, very respectful, but you don't have to slump. Sit back. You're amongst friends. Sit back. Another half a millimeter back. Yes, that's a lot better. Thank you. You're very good, and I'm sure you'll take it.
Well, Aishwarya, I agree with what has been said. You are a very good candidate. Delivery was also quite impressive. Just 2 points. One is that at times you are a little fast speaker. So I have pause in between. And second is that you have to brush up your current affairs. So current affairs, you have to develop a habit of reading newspaper every day. So that on that day, there may be some questions even today morning's news. So make it a habit. When is your interview? 23rd. So from today, I think you still have almost 22 days. Make it a habit to read newspaper, at least 1 or 2 newspapers. Thoroughly. All the best.
Aishwarya, you have a good personality. You can communicate very well. And you look confident. The only thing is, study more. Current affairs, you are not very well versed. And along with that, you have to structure your answers as has already been told. Coming to some of the questions that I asked, you answered the religious tourism circuit very well. You just mentioned one destination for Uttar Pradesh. Yes, doesn't matter. So you could include some other destination from Uttar Pradesh. Then China and Russia, you see, when you put up a point, you just don't take it as a debate, for or against. If I am saying for, then you become against. If I say against, you become for. You be both. Be both as far as possible. Unless the other side, either for or against, it is unlawful. And you can't protect. For instance, the very fact that the foreign secretary has mentioned that we are watching the dynamics of China. Now, prima facie, what does it mean? What does it mean?
We are not certain about the future.
Now, you gave a total 100% clean sheet to Russia. Now, you mentioned our interest, we are watching. It was very general. My answer was very specific. So, you should, while having mentioned that India has been, Russia has been a trusted, long time friend, everything, the same jumla we have been using for ages. But the way the relations are changing, the dynamism in relations, international relations, you can see how gaga we were with the president of US in the previous regime, right? With Donald Trump. Now what has happened now? They are making accusations. So you should have also mentioned, sir, yes, we have to be very watchful about China and Russia's nexus. We have seen it in Quad. Right? We have also seen in Ukraine war where China has gone absolutely behind. It is also said that Russia may be China's junior partner in times to come. So if they are going to be the junior partner, because China is a bigger superpower now. So that means they will follow what China says. And China will never say in favor of India. May not say. So just show that yes, it's a matter of concern. We may not be able to depend on Russia as much as we did some years ago because of these changing geopolitical situations. However, Russia has been a trusted friend. We may not have enough doubts, but we should be careful. You see the difference between yours and similarly for the power thing also. You did mention partially because absolutely fine. At the same time, you should mention this partially, yes, but you did not give reason as to why. You mentioned the other side, the other part is, import and जो दूसरा पार्ट है आपने उसको बोला मिसमैनेजमेंट वाले पार्ट को नहीं आपने कवर किया सो द रेलवे वैगन्स आग लगा रहे हैं पैसेंजर ट्रेन में इट्स लाइक अ नी जर्क रिएक्शन ब्रेक डाउन मेंटेनेंस यू शुड पुट योर पॉइंट यस सर द partly mismanagement in the form of not furnishing the demand, the railway not acting fast, and something somewhere has gone wrong. That is the reason, because even manufacturing may have been lesser. It's not rain also that the production could not happen. That is one part of mismanagement. It has also been intensified because of the import problem and the war and all. But that is for energy. But these are the thermal plants which have closed. They are not the hydroelectric plants which have closed. You have to focus on the coal part. Are you getting this? So balance it out and be more specific, giving certain illustrations that why mismanagement you think is partly. Last point, on one question you said, I will take a minute. Don't mention the time. Minute is huge. No, if the member says all right, that is also very embarrassing for the panel. Yeah, we are giving 1 minute to you just to look at each other. Just say, sir, can I take some time to answer this? Don't mention seconds or 20 seconds or 5 seconds, 7 seconds. Okay? That's all.
Okay, Aishvarya, please sit outside. We'll call you back.
No. We are giving the feedback.
Percentage. We've given 62%.
Anything, Aishwarya, you would like to argue back?
Everything is towards whatever I wanted to ask.
So what are you going to do?
So I will brush up current affairs
Number one.
and I'll try to restructure, frame my answer in head and I'll
Not frame, prepare the answers. On DAF, you must prepare your answers in advance. Whatever is possible. Like possible guess questions. BRICS will come, China, Russia may come, Ukraine may, India का stand may come, Europe may come, Finland may come. Make your answers. Keep India always in the middle. Right? और जो नए क्वेश्चन उस समय आए उनको अच्छे से फ्रेम करो 5 सेकंड अपने आप ही चुप हो जाओ क्वेश्चन पूछा then you start. You frame it from
or I try to take a uniform tone in my speaking, a uniform speed and uniform tone in my speaking.
जोर से बोलिएगा.
Yes, ma'am.
Raise your pitch.
Raise the sound.
ऐसा तो ठीक बोला था अभी आपने स्लो किया.
अभी तो स्लो कर दिया अभी तक तो अच्छा चल रहा था.
हाँ अभी तुम स्लो किया.
Are you tired or what?
Yes, sir.
And chess, what sir just said, there might be and there will be questions on chess.
Yes.
आएगा जरूर. और पढ़ के ना.
चेस का आ सकता है. चेस इज आज जो वॉर हो रही है और चेस में समानता क्या है? वो घोड़े होते थे आज टैंक हो रहे हैं. लिंक बनाओ कुछ आएगा क्वेश्चन. हाउ योर चेस वुड हेल्प. तो कैस्परोव ने या पता नहीं किसने कमेंट किया पुतिन के ऊपर. They said something. What does he say?
Sir, he has not supported him that war cannot solve the purpose and Russia should stop war.
नहीं उसने चेस से रिलेट किया उसको पढ़ना तुम.
Yes,
My daughter came of chess, something like that. You never know what will be done.
टाई का कलर भी अपने ऐश्वर्या टाई कोई पड़ा ना ऐसे में मोर मैचिंग तो थोड़ा
हाँ, हमारा जो शर्ट का शेड है वो थोड़ा सा येलोइश सा लग रहा है,
शर्ट
वाइट नहीं है ना.